Hello, everyone. Julie Miller Davis here with the show, All the Things with Julie Miller Davis. I am so excited to have you here today. Just a reminder that this show is live every single month on the second Monday at 10:30 Mountain Time. And we are all about resetting your habits and patterns at JMD Productivity Training. Basically, we help you stop doing everything so you can do the right things. And this show came about because constantly everyone is saying to me, I keep doing all the things, or I say I help people stop doing all the things. And when I was talking with our guest today is who helped me come up with kind of nudged me to do the show. And we then did some back and forth talking and came up with all the things for Julie with Julie Miller Davis. And so this show is really about helping you figure out what are the things that you can do, and also who are the people and what are the things that you might stop doing in order to start doing the right things. And one of those things is having to do with your marketing, social media, PR work. And Kate Paine is an expert in some of those things. And so our guest today is Kate Paine, who nudged me to start doing this show, and we started in January. So maybe we started before that even. I don't know how many episodes we've done. This is me being me today, guys. So Kate Paine is one who helps authors, speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs, and executives stand out online and become recognized as authorities in their industry. She is extraordinary at what she does. And I think probably one of the best in her field, extremely knowledgeable, and has definitely upped my game on LinkedIn. I can't tell you how many people have told me in the last year how much they love what's happening on my LinkedIn. And that is all because of Kate Paine and how we have upped our game at JMD Productivity on LinkedIn. And there's so much more that I need to be doing. And so keep an eye on my LinkedIn because there are more things that will be happening. Kate has a knack for helping people discover their personal story and how to weave it into their professional experience. Her platform of choice is LinkedIn. It's where she is truly an expert, along with all of her background in PR and the news and marketing. So please welcome today, Ms. Kate Paine. Yay!
Hey! Oh my God, what a lovely introduction. I'm sitting there going, wow. Thank you, Julie. So I'm so excited to be with you. And it was fun working with you to help you get this, to nudge you to get this set up, because I watched your show and you do a fabulous job and you have great guests and you're helping everybody do the right things.
Hopefully I am. We'll see if they
You helped me a lot, that's for sure.
Welcome in, Stephanie. Stephanie Hastings is here. That's pretty cool.
Oh, Stephanie, thank you. I love you too.
Kate, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, my background is kind of funny, actually. Literally in junior high school, I used to watch 60 Minutes with my dad. I was kind of a geek. And I thought, you know what? That's what I want to be. I want to be a reporter someday. And so at the time, the only female journalists on TV were like Barbara Walters and Diane Sawyer. And Diane Sawyer was on 60 Minutes. And I was just like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. So anyway, fast forward, went through college. And when I went to college in New York City, actually, my junior and senior year of college, I actually was really fortunate to get an internship at CBS News at the Broadcast Center in New York. First year I worked on morning show, and the second year I worked in the Northeast Bureau for the evening news with Dan Rather. So that's what really immersed me in wanting to go into journalism. But one thing that happened in that is I was like, but I don't want to be in corporate broadcast. So, and I just didn't want to be in the city. I just was like, it was like just not my jam. So I came back to Vermont, which is where I'm from. And I worked in media, and then those media jobs ended up getting me my first PR job. So I was director of PR at one of the local state colleges, and I loved it because it sort of brought in media, but it also brought in marketing. And it was all, I started to realize that I really want to work for companies or organizations that are mission driven, because if they've got a real serious message to get out there, I want to be the one to help get that message out. And then here we are. So I started standing out online. I'm in my 9th year. And as you mentioned, I work with speakers, authors, coaches, people who have a big mission or a big message they want to get out, and how to use online channels and off to get their message out.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. I know so much.
Did I breathe?
Yeah, Kate's story is fantastic, and her time at CBS is fascinating. And she was so young, and just sometime if you ever get in touch with her and have a chance to connect with her, if those of you who are our age, maybe a little younger, definitely older, know who Charles Kuralt was, and you'll have to ask her story about meeting
Oh my
Charles
God,
Kuralt.
that was the coolest thing. Yes.
Awesome. So talk to me, because we are all about one of the foundational things we do at JMD Productivity is around your habits around time. And you and I have worked a little bit on that for you, but talk to us a little bit about your habits around time. And that will probably lead us into the next question.
Well, if there's one thing I learned right off the bat when you mentioned the word habits, is that you don't break a habit, you replace it with a new one. And that was a huge aha for me. So when I attended your Unstuck event last October, that really stood out for me. And so that is something that's still a work in progress, but I am so much more conscious of it. And when you're conscious of it, then you're obviously making change, and you're shifting.
Yeah.
And so, it's been a funky 6 to 7 months for me. And so I've had a lot of opportunities to replace old habits with new ones. And so, and now I'm in your prioritize with power. So it's making me actually be more than just being conscious of it. It's making me actually do it. Yes.
Right.
Like, I mean, right. I was doing it here and there, but
Yeah.
when you're in a program and you're with other people and there's accountability, you get stuff done.
Yeah. And 50%, I say it over and over again, I believe that 50% of the battle is awareness, and the other 50% is doing something about it. So,
yes.
I thank you for saying that. So talk to me about what has been a roadblock that you've come up against in your business, and what did you do to kind of look at it from different angles and then eventually, I guess, solve it?
Well, my sort of weak spot has always been systems and time, and trying to manage time, which, as if my friend Julie Miller Davis says, you don't manage time. But that's what I needed help with. And so, I mean, Julie, you and I met in 2019. So I've been in your program a couple times, the virtual and stuff like that. So you were the inspiration for me to really get my act together on my calendar. And now that's probably my biggest new habit, which is now probably 2 to 3 years old, was time chunking, putting things in the calendar, putting tasks in the calendar. Even my business coach that I worked with for a couple of years kind of underscored, what you said too. So it was like, how that thing is when you hear it from 2 people or more, you better pay attention.
Yeah.
But I'm really particular with my calendar. I put everything in. I put things in as like, it's color coded. So I have my business, I have my personal, I have my reminders, I have my tasks, and I've gotten really, really good at that. And I've gotten even better with it in the last probably few months.
Yeah.
But I live by my calendar now. And that's probably the biggest change I made, because I'm not saying it's perfect. I mean, I still move things around, or I forget something. I forget to add something into the calendar, and then something slips through the cracks, but it doesn't happen anywhere near as much as it used to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if anyone has been through, or if you follow me, or if you don't follow me, you should, because we talk a lot about calendar, especially for entrepreneurs, is not a, it's not written in stone or blood, is what I always say. Like,
I mean, I move things around all the time, but
I'm very much about a fluid calendar, which means that you can move things around. We just can't let them fall off. You have to decide where else they go. If you're not going to do that thing now, when are you going to do it? Instead of just being like ignoring it and like hoping it goes away, and then you're like, oh crap, I didn't do that thing. So, so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Stephanie's agreeing. Time chunking and color coding work.
Thank you. She is. So you just talked about implementing like time chunks and time blocks and that kind of thing. What is, even aside from that, like, and aside from maybe even me, if there's something that you do that I didn't teach you, what is one productivity tool or tip that you've implemented in your business that might help our listeners?
So I don't know if it's a productivity thing, but it's definitely like a keep track of things type tool.
Okay.
And frankly, I keep a log. I have a spiral bound journal. And every single day, every single meeting I have with a client, everything I do in the day, I put a date and a time and I write down some notes. And I keep it next to me all day. I still need to do like I used to do the
Writing.
lists. I stopped doing the lists
Yay.
because you taught me to that. But I still needed the log because it's just there's so many things coming at me, and then it's like, okay, I'm getting on a client call in 2 weeks. What did we do at the last meeting? I don't want to go back and look at the Zoom recording. That just takes too much time. So I just literally, and that's why it's spiral bound because I can flip it over. I mean, it really, I don't have it in front of me because that's in my briefcase, but it's just a smaller one. It's not a big giant one. It doesn't take up much room. And I log everything I do, not everything, but the client calls. I mean, one of
Yeah.
the things you had
Yeah.
us do a couple of weeks ago in your program was to write down every single thing we do in a day. I did. And then I'm like, there's no way I'm sharing
Good
this.
times.
I'm like, do I have to put down what I ate? But seriously, this has been a tool and I save these journals because sometimes I had a client from 2 or 3 years ago and then they want to come back to me. And now I have all of this. So that has been just, it's kind of a safety tool,
So
but
then,
it also imprints on my brain because when I do hand to
yeah.
paper, even if I journal, it stays with me.
Yeah. So it definitely is, it, it definitely covers you because you can go back and you have notes that are dated and all of that from when you met with people. I made these years and years ago when I did one of my first events. And so that's
Yeah.
exactly what I do. And
Yeah.
so, and I have one for like my masterminds that I run. So I have notes from when we meet as a group, and then I have my client notes one. And so let me, when you're talking about someone comes back to you, maybe you met with them a couple of years ago and now they're coming back to you. Do you just look in your calendar and you look at what date you met with them, and then you're able to go back to that
Yes.
notebook, to that date? Okay.
Yes. I also have a really good memory for stuff like that. Like, I'm not saying I remember the exact day, but I'll be like, you know what? I'm pretty sure that was like 2021 around spring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so I can usually just go back but I save everything in my calendar. I mean, I think the calendaring thing is the most brilliant thing ever because it's just, the other thing is I do like in between appointments, for example, like if I have a half hour, because I'm trying very hard not to do back-to-back Zoom calls if I can avoid it. And so I'll put in what I call buffer. So I'll literally like put in 15 minutes or a half an hour and I put buffer because that way when people get my calendar link, that slot's not available.
Yeah.
That was, I learned that lesson the hard way after a few times doing like 6 Zoom calls in a row practically on a day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that again.
So much. And it doesn't let your brain change gears either. Like you're still, if we go back to back on anything, I talk about buffer time a lot too. So I'm glad you brought that up. If we go back to back on anything without that 10 or 15 minutes, our brain is still on the thing we were just doing. It's not on where we are. So
Exactly.
it's taking time to catch up. And then we're not multitasking, but we're still not fully present where we are if we
Right.
don't have that like reset break kind of thing.
And
So
we're not showing up well for our client either.
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't mean to say it like this, but you can fake it. But you know what? It's just
Yeah.
like, that's why these buffers are important. That's why chunking is important. So that when you show up for your meetings, you're always showing up as your most fresh and best self. Because that's what they're paying you for.
Absolutely. What is, this might be a loaded question and we'll keep it a little lighter, but what is something that you've conquered lately?
Something I've conquered lately. God, I read this in your questions and I had an answer and now I'm not remembering it and I should have written it down.
Okay. I like it when
You know what? I actually think that because of doing the work with you, we've talked a lot about procrastination. And there's one project that I've been procrastinating on for months. And last week when we were talking about procrastination, I took 2 steps forward to get this thing, just done. And so I still have another step, but I'm 2 steps closer versus 0 steps closer.
Yes. I
So
love
that
it.
is definitely something I conquered.
Yeah, I think that is such a great example and a great thing. And if you can step out those things that you've been procrastinating on, you can conquer it. And it, conquers a big word, but you guys, we have to conquer the little things as much as we need to conquer the big things. And sometimes the little things feel like big things because we procrastinated on them.
Well, they become big because now we've got this story in our head because we've been
Right.
avoiding it and avoiding it. Now it's like this thing, and it's like, it's going to take
Right.
6 hours. And then when you sit down and do it, it's like, okay, I got that done in 15 minutes.
15
Oh my
minutes.
gosh. Like,
Totally. Totally. So one of the biggest one of the things I'm one of the biggest proponents of is recreating, as you know.
I do know.
And so I recharge my battery very intentionally. I work as much as I play generally, not always. We have busy seasons and whatnot, but I generally take at least one day off during the week, and then my weekends are off. And so for me, recreating is hiking and golf and tennis and skiing and all outdoors activities generally. And also though, reading, I know it's not recreating, but just that time to escape, if you will, because I read, we'll talk about reading business books later, but I'm a big fiction reader and movie watcher and all of that. So I would love to know, and I would love for our watchers to know, what do you do to recharge?
Oh my gosh, similar to your list. Hiking for sure. Still getting used to elevation here, and my body's still getting used to it. But what I got back into in January is Pilates, and it's been a game changer for me. My attitude's been different. I've been more open, and I'm wanting more, and I'm wanting more, and I'm wanting more because I'm seeing the result and I'm feeling the result. Like I feel more healthy than I've felt in years. So that's been a huge thing. But I love to hike. Paddleboarding is my favorite thing. I'm not living in a place where I can paddleboard much. So I do love being near the water. So who knows where that I'll end up at some point, but water is important to me. Paddleboarding is a huge, sport for me. Skiing, I love too. And just even sitting and watching a Netflix movie or reading, I'm picking reading back up again. It's not that I don't read. It's just for the last few months, I haven't read as much. And now I'm getting back into that again. And I'm realizing, like, even just taking 45 minutes in the middle of the day while I'm eating lunch, I've actually done that a couple times in the last couple weeks. And I'm like, I want to do that again. And sometimes it's business, sometimes it's self-care, but recharging is so important. We always talk about self-care and we always go, yeah, I know. I need to do self-care. And we don't really do it, or we do it like in these short little amounts of time, which maybe don't recharge us as much as they could. You really have to make the time and put it in your calendar.
Yeah.
And protect it.
Yeah.
Like Danny, my assistant, knows that when she sees certain things in my calendar that are recreational, I'm like, if something is an emergency, let me know, but protect that time. Do not use that unless you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. So good. Speaking of books, what are you reading or listening to in that professional development, self-development arena that our readers, our readers, our listeners should check out?
I just picked up the book that it's 90 Seconds to a Better Life or something like that. Mutual friend of ours, Betsy Clark, referred me to it, and I literally just started it last night.
Okay.
And I don't have it in front of me. I can go get it if you want me to. But anyway, it's about having, whether it's personal or professional, it's about dealing with challenging moments, challenging or negative thoughts, and how to kind of pause and stop and reflect and figure out how to have different thinking and to be able to do that in 90 seconds.
Yeah.
So I'm, the title certainly captivated me. I'm like, 90 seconds. I've been doing this for 50 years. Yeah, let's try 90 seconds.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh, that sounds awesome. And there's so much power in just stopping and breathing before we respond. and keep
You
it
just made me think of
primary.
something by you saying that.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things I've learned, especially lately, is I've lived my life in a lot of reactive mode. I'm always like, gotta have an answer, gotta do something, gotta do this, gotta do it now, gotta do it now. Oh, I got the ping on the email, I better do it now. And so some of it is like the power of the pause is powerful. And we don't have to live our life in reactivity.
Yeah.
I think I was talking about this with Betsy actually. Being responsive is one thing, being reactive is another. So be responsive to the things that you need to be responsive to, but don't be in constant reactive mode. And that's something, again, that's been a lifelong thing for me. And so to be in responsive mindset versus reactive is another thing that I'm definitely making progress toward. It's hard to
Yeah.
unlearn things you've done for 50 years. You know what I mean? So
It is. It is. It is. And if we have been reactive or we were taught to be reactive or
yep.
whatever it is hard to do differently. And we talk one of the other foundational things we talk about in JMD productivity is about proactivity and
Mhm.
about being in problem solving mode rather than in worry or
Mhm.
reaction mode, and taking the emotion out of it so we can be logical. So it's and not that we don't react. I mean, we have
We all do.
visceral, yeah, we have visceral emotional responses to things. But if we can allow it to happen for, a finite amount of time, and
Mhm.
then take ourselves out of it and put ourselves in the logical solution oriented space, um we can really start serving our future selves, and instead of just the here and now, what feels urgent or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, it's a different mindset. And you're right, Kate. It's very hard to, it's not even, it goes back to what you said at the very beginning. It's not unlearning, because for
Mhm.
50 years we've had this
Yeah.
learned behavior.
Right.
It's catching ourselves and be like, oh, hold on, I'm changing that. I'm doing it this way now. I'm taking 90 seconds now. I'm taking a breath, and I'm backing up for a
Well,
second.
that's where you can stop and go, actually pause. I have a choice.
Yeah.
I'm not the little girl anymore that had to do things the way my parents told me or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing I think with me in business, and maybe some of you who are listening have gone through the same thing. My father was a successful entrepreneur, had his own company for years, but my father's, the way we were taught, especially when we even worked, and even when I was 13 and I was like shoveling my neighbors' driveways for money. Do you know what I mean? Like doing these things. It was always like customer first, drop everything when the customer needs you.
Mm,
And while there's still, you always want the customer to feel loved on and cared for, we don't have to drop everything. And I think that's what I was taught, is that you drop everything to serve them. And that I think there's an evolution that we've all experienced in working with our clients, that unless, someone is uh, bleeding, we
right.
don't really, and how often does that happen?
Right.
We don't really need to be in that frame of mind. And that is something that I don't know if unlearning is the word, but it's something I've had to tackle, because I've still been in that reactive place. Like, oh, they just emailed me, I got to answer them right now. And it's like, okay, if I don't
Yeah.
answer them for like an hour or at the end of the day, I think everybody's going to live.
Well, when your dad was doing business largely, uh, we weren't at people's beck and call. Like,
Exactly.
there were messaging services and answering
Right.
machines,
And
and
voice, yes.
yeah,
Answering machines.
we didn't have a computer in our hand all the time. So yeah.
Right. And people actually back then didn't necessarily work beyond 5 or 6 o'clock.
Right.
I mean, people actually went home and had dinner with their families. God, remember
Well,
that?
and didn't have their phone next to them
Right.
while they were
Exactly.
eating, that kind of
I
thing.
mean, I remember when we'd be eating dinner, if the phone rang, the good old fashioned phone on the wall with the cord,
Mm,
it was like, we're eating dinner. Do not
yeah.
answer the phone during dinner
Yeah.
time.
We were too.
Yeah.
We weren't on the phone. We weren't
Yep.
allowed to answer the phone. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's so different now.
So tell us, what do you have coming up in your business that you want to highlight and or give away to our listeners?
Well, one of the things I work on with my clients, whether it's on LinkedIn or it's for their website or whatever, is I actually help them with their personal brand and their personal story. So we want to understand by way of your personal brand. We want to understand what your superpowers are. How do people know you? How do people see you as the thought leader that you are? And how can we get you more visibility by knowing that positioning that you have so that you put yourself out there like that? Then if we also dig into like your little story nugget, like we did it with you, Julie, that you can see in your LinkedIn profile. And when you tie your story to your personal brand, then that is completely unique to you. And you can use it on the about page of your website. You can use it on LinkedIn. You can use it wherever. You can do social media posts about it. But it helps ground you in who you are and what you do and how you serve someone or how you help your client, right? What's the outcome you give them? But knowing that is important. And so my the freebie that I'm giving away today is my ebook. It's short, but it's got some exercises in it to help you identify your little personal story nugget.
Awesome.
Because it's a lot. We hear about storytelling all the time. This is not a once upon a time story. This is not a why. This is not a purpose. This is like a little. Usually, it's like, how did you get to what you're doing? Like
Yeah.
with your story, we went back to you being a teacher and how that is relevant and aligned with what you do now, because that's what makes you relatable to a person that's reading your profile or whatever. And that's what makes connection, and connection builds relationships, and relationships
Yeah.
can lead to transactions. Right. So,
Absolutely.
so the ebook is about how to identify your own little personal story nugget.
Awesome. And we'll be dropping that link in. It is standingoutonline.com/telling your story, right? That's
Yep.
your ebook.
Yep.
So we will drop that link into the comments. Also, if you want to connect further with Kate, if you feel like you'd like to just see if working on your LinkedIn is something that's in your future, or you feel called for that, she's got a 30-minute discovery call with her to see if and how she can help you get where you want to go with your LinkedIn.
Yes. No pressure. Just a conversation. Happy to answer questions. Can share with you how I work with my clients if that's something you're interested in. So people love these 30-minute calls with me because they get at least one, if not several, big takeaways.
Little nuggets. So we'll drop that link as well into the chat so that people know how to connect with you further, Kate, if they so desire.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
thank you for your time today. I'm so happy that we were able to do this.
Me too.
I'm going to wrap things up, but just hang out for a few in the studio, and I will I'll bring it back when we're done here. So
Okay. Thank you for
thank
having
you.
me. And
Thank
thank
you.
you,
Thank
Stephanie. It was nice to
you.
see you here.
Love, Kate. Thank you so much. All right, our next All the Things with Julie Miller Davis is on Monday, May 8th at 10:30 a.m., where you're featuring Shondell Spader, CEO of the Spader Group. Cannot wait to have Shondell on. She's been a partner in my Unstuck event. She has been two years in a row. She's been a partner, and she's a phenomenal wealth of knowledge, and can't wait to have you here to see what Shondell has to say. Things coming up. I am a sponsor of the Colorado Springs eWomen Network Success Summit, which is on May 10th. And also mark your calendars and maybe check on my website on May 17th at noon Mountain Time for 90 minutes. We are doing a intensive called Stop Procrastinating Now, where we are going to dig into some of the big things that you've been wanting to do in your business, but you haven't taken action yet. So please check that out on my website, and we will see you in a month. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Take care.